Barcelona Real Betis is always a real fun fixture to watch. There is a reason why many culés say that Real Betis is their second favorite team in Spain. And while there are a bunch of fouls and this game got a bit rough around the edges, I think that was generally true for this one, with the exception of the fact that, of course, 2022-23 Barcelona must do some suffering now, don't they? So let's do the 5 headlines from Barcelona's 2-1 win over Real Betis. But before that, maybe call this one a little pre-headline. I ask you please subscribe to this channel. You know the EPL has spent a ton of money and they really dominate the English-speaking space. And I feel like when I look at other channels and other content that's coming out, the algorithms just want me to watch things on the Premier League. So you could do La Liga and myself a big help by giving a subscribe to this channel and try to get me in front of more faces to get more fans back to La Liga. And so now that you've done that and we get that out of the way, let's get to those headlines. One is stick to the script. Barcelona, at least on paper, is supposed to get punched in the mouth by Real Betis, but handle the punches and win those matches. And I feel like Barca did exactly that today again, because the result does, and 3 points does prove that to be true. It's pretty incredible to note that Barcelona hasn't lost to Betis in Seville since 2011, when a man named, I think it's Pep Guardiola, coached the team. The history that was made, though, is that Barcelona now becomes the first team ever to win 6 consecutive away fixtures at Betis. And on paper, we know that Real Betis at 5th place in the league. We're trying to get up to 4th with a victory tonight. Well, they didn't do that. And now for Real Betis, they've made a little bit of their own poor history, not gaining a win in their last 4 home matches, which is something pretty surprising when you see how much success they generally have down in Andalusia. 2 is hot and cold Raphinha. I knew that we'd have to be talking about Raphinha, whether it was good, whether it was bad, and tonight it was a little bit of both. In his first, I want to call it an audition, but because he's Barcelona's only real natural right winger at this point, Ferran Torres came on for him late, but he's more comfortable on the left, as is Ansu Fati. We were going to be talking about Raphinha aplenty, especially for the next 5 to 6 weeks while Dembele is out. He did well to get inside in the first half on certain occasions. It was a great pass from him in the 19th minute to Pedri, a nutmeg through Carvalho. Unfortunately, Pedri took one too many touches, and Rui Silva got it right on the save. Raphinha also wasted plenty of opportunities that he was given by Pedri putting him in a perfect position to go 1v1, to build up a head of steam, or run on the ball, and yet he would slow up, the tempo was on, and to his credit, he also deserved a penalty when he was elbowed by Abner in the second half, but that wasn't to be. Fortunately for the player, though, he does get the goal, the 1-0. Betis has a bit of a fair complaint that Barca took the free kick way too far away from where the foul took place. But little things like that do happen, and those injustices in the Liga, well, Barcelona probably should have got the penalty earlier, as I said. So, as I continue to always say, those things do cancel each other out, and they even out over the course of a season. But once that ball was played and Balde was dribbling, that was it. And it was good on Raphinha to stay onside, tap it in, and come up big in a big moment. For Raphinha, if that does anything for his confidence whatsoever, a major win for Xavi tonight. I do have to talk about Pedri because continuing that Girona theme and almost continuing what should have been a theme for the last 5 games. Because Pedri had scored 3 in his last 5, now it's 3 in his last 6 games. But still, Pedri could have been on the score sheet a number of times. And instead of saying, oh, I'm upset that Pedri didn't score those 3 goals that he probably should have had, instead, I'm going to say it is a great thing that Pedri is still helping with controlling the game, his ball retention, dropping in when he needs to, yet he was getting into so many attacking spaces today. It felt like at times that he might have heat mapped as a secondary striker or as an attacking midfielder, but no, if you look at his heat map, he was still playing as a high right interior, connecting that left-sided numerical overload to Raphinha out on the right. He was doing his job and getting forward and calling the shots himself, choosing when to duck in underneath Lewandowski. And for this midfield, as I talk about them as a whole, Barcelona's midfield of Gavi, Pedri, Jong, and Busquets, when they're all making the proper decisions, because that is the key. It's how they fit together, sure, it's chemistry, it's the personnel, but now that they've played together, know each other, and they are part of that Gala 11, what's making it so great is that their decision-making is right on cue, and that is why they have been the best midfield now for, 9 straight matches. They won every single match in January, and I know that this midfield four didn't start together in all of those, but now that this is the Gala midfield four that Barcelona plays, is a great sign to see how they're figuring out and functioning in those different roles, for which tune in on Monday to the podcast, by the way. I've got somebody to really dig into those things, if you know who I might be referring to. Of the 4 midfielders, I'd say it was really only De Jong who didn't have a positive night. He misplayed a ball in the 43rd minute that generally summed up his attacking performance, but he did have some redemption on the defensive side of things, coming against the counter in the 73rd minute, perfectly positioned to slow up Luis Enrique until Busquets could get into position, and Luis Enrique played a poor ball as well, so he didn't do himself any favors, but it also was a juxtaposition too with Busquets. For as poor as I think De Jong kind of was tonight, Busquets was excellent. And these are usually the games. When I started the preseason, I had mentioned that there is no back for Busquets, and that has me a bit worried. These are the kind of games that I was alluding to, that I would have loved to see a younger, more agile. I mean, this is the game where you'd expect on paper that Kessié could, you would hope at the start of the year, had fit in a double pivot. But no, Busquets was actually excellent in this game as up-tempo and end-to-end than it was. Yes, he was caught on the counterattack on 2 occasions, but Barca didn't concede in those moments because of the back line that was supporting Busquets. With that late header that was kind of a clear out, a late Betis cross, Busquets summed up his night as being one that was really useful. And while Gavi didn't necessarily shine tonight, functionally, it was interesting because against Real Betis, you do question whether or not Barcelona would have probably gotten more out of this game by starting a left winger instead of Gavi as an inside forward because Balde was getting forward. But I think we're about to talk about Balde, and it's hard to argue with the final result. Like the first half, when it was 0-0, it's different than the second half. So it's not that things necessarily did change, but it's that Xavi got more out of his system on the left side. So while it seemed like Gavi starting in this game was a question mark in terms of the tactics, it had nothing to do with Gavi, but the formation itself, those things all kind of rectified itself by the end of the game. Because headline 4 is Araujo's baby steps and Balde's big step. I could probably say something about each of the 4 defenders who, I know they gave up a goal, it was an own goal, and that's the real one black mark on Koundé's performance tonight. I think about 80 minutes in, it would have been Koundé that I really should have highlighted here, but the own goal does go against him. But I want to say too about Araujo. There's not much to say about his performance tonight. He was solid defensively. Actually, if anything, he was caught more than he usually is. He was caught twice in the first half, Jong not really helping him out much either, and then getting caught again in the second half on one occasion with Koundé covering for him. But when I say baby steps about Araujo, but I think what made Barcelona so solid in the first half, and so much onus was put on the attackers, is to, hey, you're getting all these opportunities, you're living in Real Betis half of the field, why are you putting the ball in the back of the net? Well, that's because Barcelona's back line was playing so high. And that's because Christensen and Koundé have certainly upgraded Barcelona's ball-playing abilities and how calm they are at the back. They can make the tackles, they can retain the ball, and then they can play a simple ball that puts Barcelona back on the front foot. And I can speak for Araujo last year, he did look like he was a bit behind, even Piqué and Eric Garcia. But this season, he's played some pretty good balls. I mean, consistently, there aren't many where I've been nervous about him. Ter Stegen had his 2 giveaways tonight. Araujo had 1 giveaway, but Koundé also had 2 giveaways with the ball. And Araujo just kind of fit in. And he's been sturdy with the ball at his feet. He's also incorporating a few long balls that we saw in January. So those little baby steps of Araujo being better on the ball, at least to my perception of the game. We'll have to see what the advanced metrics say someday, but I'm happy about those baby steps he's taking. And for Balde, I know it feels like a big step, but his baby steps of decision-making, as I talked about with the midfield, is what's making him better and better, and why he was named the man of the match for this one by La Liga. Of course, he did have the assist. That was nice, but he's really figuring out when to come inside and when to stay outside and try to go up and around. In the academy, you could see that the wheels and gears were always turning because he had that first step and that pace to beat anybody at that level. So he could get wherever he wanted, and he wasn't really forced to make those decisions until he got basically to the 3rd division with Barca B 2 years ago, when he finally had defenders that could make him have to decide and physically could make him have to choose between going inside or staying outside or coming inside. And the good news for Balde is that that is still a choice. It's not even like he's lost that choice. He still has the ability with that first step that is just incredibly fast to get outside and set himself that way or come inside. And because of that pace, if he has in his head where he knows he needs to go prior to even receiving the ball, there's no defender in Liga that can stop him on that first step. Yeah, they can catch up to him or bring a second defender, but you're watching him in real time figure it out and anticipate where he's supposed to go before he receives the ball. And that's what's making him so dangerous. Alba still has a better final ball, and Alonso is still, I guess he's better defensively. Maybe, I don't know. Balde's been just as good. And Balde obviously is a starter over Alonso for all those reasons. But as Balde's decision-making continues to improve, if his crossing can continue to improve, and his defensive solidity continues to work alongside Christensen, which we see that partnership kind of faring better and better. Because Christensen was able to get forward and anticipate a bit more, with Balde actually tucking in at times defensively. So as those two continue that partnership on the left side of Barca's defense, Balde's defending is only going to get better and better. And number 5 is the return of Lewandowski to mixed results. We do have to mention in the first half, there was some offsides, there was some weird stuff, but there was a big fat 0 that should be mentioned. It was Barcelona having failed to register a shot on target in the first half of a game for only the 2nd time this season. That's in all competitions. So the first time in the Liga, 2nd time because they also did it against Bayern Munich, but we're going to forget about that game. And Lewandowski, unfortunately, it seemed like coming back from suspension. I know he's been playing in other competitions, but I don't know. It took him a little bit to get up to this match. It wasn't until the 73rd minute when we finally saw some life from him. But then, of course, he gets the second goal to put the game away, and he continues to score goals in the Liga like it's his job. Well, it is his job. And it was a good finish, too, to anticipate, to step right across the defender, and then finish. I don't think he scuffed it too much. Anyway, he knew where the back of the net was, and he found it. So Lewandowski, I mean, these are the kind of games and goals where when Lewandowski is only playing at 40% of his best and he still manages to score these goals in the Liga, those, coupled with the back line, coupled with the midfield figuring it out, are what win Barcelona La Liga this season. Because at the moment, reminder, at the moment, they're up by 8 points with Real Madrid still playing tomorrow. And I think that's a fair place to end it. This team didn't bring anybody in January, but neither did most of the rest of Spain either. So it's not like La Liga got better around the edges to challenge Barcelona anymore. This Barcelona team, as I've been saying all of January, and really the last few months, the way this team is built, they can win any of the competitions that they're in for the rest of this season. And with La Liga, we'll see about what Valencia can do against Real Madrid tomorrow. But, I mean, first week of February, if you put it yourself, that's a good margin to continue with the squad you have. I know Dembele is out, but keep getting those results the way you did when Lewandowski was out. Those 3 straight 1-0s, and now this 2-1 against Real Betis, these are the kind of results, as I keep reminding you, that can win Barcelona the Spanish title. So that you don't miss any of the Liga and Europa League and Copa del Rey action, again, there's a Copa del Rey El Clasico to look forward to at the start of next month. Make sure you subscribe to this channel and all that stuff. And you know where to go for everything else down in the description below. And as always, until next time, Forza Barca.